Hi Blazers, Dr. Ross here. I want to talk a little bit tonight about plant growth. Now that we've finished up with looking at the xylem and the phloem and transpiration and translocation. So tonight I want us to spend just a little bit of time on growth as a precursor to what we'll cover next week. We look at hormones and plant structure and structure of the flower. So we'll just, briefly take a look at how a plant, kind of grows. And then Monday, we'll take a look at some of those additional hormones that account for the way a plant grows. Because, we've all seen a plant kind of grow towards the light. And, if you thought about it, I mean, plants don't have eyes. They don't know where the sunlight is coming from. Why does a plant, it's kind of interesting, the stem of the plant grows towards the light and the roots of the plant grow away from the light. And they do that because of the hormone auxin that's present in the plant. But we'll take a look at that next week, and we'll also talk a little bit about what's called tropism, which is the reason that plants either grow towards the light, which is phototropism, or grow with roots towards the center of the earth, towards the pull of gravity, which is geotropism. So we'll look at that next week. So in general, here's our plant growing here. And we have basically two parts that are actually doing the growing. The roots from the bottom and the stem coming up through the top here. So it's kind of interesting because plants can grow, to various sizes. There's not only one way really that a plant is going to or a certain height that a plant grows. There's lots of experiments that are done using plants where we measure, some will grow 16 centimeters, some grow 20 centimeters, some grow 10 centimeters, all same seeds from the same plant. So there's no real accounting for certain heights of plant growth. Now, unlike animals, we see here plants are able to generate whole other plants, right? We can take a clipping of a plant and putting it in the right conditions, and either water usually to start, and then transplanting into the proper soil. We can grow a whole new plant. We can't do that, obviously, with animals. We can't, take an animal and put it in water and grow another one. So the reason plants can do this is because the cells in plants are what we call totipotent cells. Now, if you remember back when we looked at stem cells, we saw that there are a variety of different types of stem cells: totipotent, pluripotent, omnipotent, and so on. And with the totipotent cells, they have the ability to differentiate right into any type of plant tissue. So, this is the most several hundred different types of cells in animals that a totipotent cell can differentiate into. So with plants, these cells are totipotent, so they can differentiate it into any type of plant cell that we know of. All right. Now, when we're talking about growth in plants, we have to talk about what's called the meristem. And we're going to see that we have two basic types of meristems. These are the areas where growth of a plant is restricted to. Now, at the very beginning, I said, we have growth at the root and we're going to have growth at the stem. So we're going to start with the root here. And we have the first type of meristem, which is called the root apical meristem. That's right down here, tucked on top of the root cap. And these are what we call undifferentiated cells, right? They have not undergone cell division yet, so they do not know at this point what type of plant cell they are going to develop into, and they don't know at this point how much growth they are going to be able to determine for that particular plant. So at the tip down here, we find our apical meristem down here. Right? So that's the one part. Now, the second part, again, we have the root meristem down here. We're going to have what we call the shoot meristem up here at the top of the plant. So those are the two main types, as I mentioned, of meristems that we are going to see. Root apical down at the root, and shoot apical up at the top tip of the stem itself. These are going to be plants that are cells of the plant that eventually will undergo the cell cycle over and over again and will produce new types of cells so that the plant can increase in size, mass, volume, etc. So that plant is going to get bigger. When we're looking at that shoot apical meristem up here at the top tip, tip of the plant, we can see that here there are going to be groups of cells that are going to be responsible really for the growth of the cell, because they're going to produce either the leaf or they're going to produce the flower. Now I'm going to post a little time-lapse video for you to take a look at, which shows you how that stem emerges from the soil and develops these leaves. Now, every time one of these meristems divide, another cell is going to remain, and then one differentiates. Right? So we get that growth that occurs. Now, plants will use additional meristems, right, that can differentiate into other different types of tissue. And here is where our hormones and things like that are going to come into play. And we'll take a look at those, all the hormones involved during next week's lecture. Now, very young leaves of plants, we see them usually emerge and then they unfold. And these come out of the tips of the stems here, and of course are formed because of that shoot meristem that I talked about before. Now, they begin by looking like small bumps. This is, of course, before the leaves can unfurl and emerge. And those small bumps are what we call the leaf primordia, which you will see here. This is probably a great time, for you to go outside and take a look at tree buds or plant buds that happen to be coming up in your garden or in your neighborhood. Take a walk around and see what you can see. I guarantee you will run across the meristem, the shoot meristems coming up out of the ground. Especially, you can look at things like tulips or hyacinth or things like that. And then you would definitely see the leaf primordia if you can take a look at some of the budding that's occurring on trees. So, take a look, take a little walk around your neighborhood, and see what you can see as far as these types of plant parts in your own neighborhood. That's all we're going to cover for today. I'm going to give you guys, I will post a video with that time lapse so you can see that. And then another that'll talk a little bit about hormones, and then we'll pick up with that next week. So have a good weekend. I will see you guys later. Take care, Blazers.